Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Our first Mondays of Mrhappy after Shadowbringers launch. We're going to be talking a lot about that over this next week. In fact, I have a ton of videos to get to after I record this, so I'm going to keep the pleasantries at the beginning, other than our Patreon list, short, so I can actually get to quite a few questions over on the YubTub comment section. So real quick, shout out to Patreon sponsors, and then we'll get going. I'm sure a lot of my thoughts will be portrayed in the various questions I'm going to be answering. So for those of you who don't know, we do have a Patreon. It's really just to support the YouTube channel. Nothing too fancy about it. Completely optional. That's what it is. But we like to thank our patrons at the start of certain videos, this being one of them. We have our patrons of Darkness now, Khuja Cross on Jenova and Kurenai Oni, who have gone above and beyond in terms of their monetary support for the channel on both YouTube and Twitch, to be honest. So thank you to both of them. Some pictures that they provide to us for the, provide to me, I should say, for the opening, and thank you. You guys are awesome as per usual. You guys are used to this. We also have our standard sponsors. We have Edmund Dantes, we have Alandra Elentil on Siren, Rav Mal of Cactuar, Alburio, Sana Arashir, Brynhildr, Kromsgar Holzborgen of Gilgamesh, Kevin, Wabatalia, Alma Elma, Dark Lumina from Jenova, Marianne, Remedial Gaming, Sabo Empire, Mizra, Red Wings of the Baron FC from Zalera, Cidus Oreo on Shiva, Syd Hellwind of Gilgamesh, Afro Ninja from Malboro, Cheesecake from Leviathan, That Lame Weeb, Ashen Emiya of Cerberus, Fafarian, Rendil, Stevie-Rex, and Neon. By the way, I've not gone over this list since the beginning of the month. I threw a couple of names on here, but I'm sure there are some that need to be taken away as well. We have our elite sponsors. We have Doctor Strange on Mateus. We got Sir Moonsar on Sargatanis, OmniGeek, Kareth Jarrus of the Crimson Guard, Jonananan, Kazron, Mika, Jay Gardner, Benjamin, Irish Rager, George, Batargarl, Yufa Kenchi on Excalibur, Scumlord, Itsumi Amarillo of Gilgamesh, Ravik, Card Dragons from Fanford, Sigurd Drake from Balmung, Edge, Fair on Ultros, Jerica, Emma, Zernik Vorg 13, Krista Zuki of Brynhildr, Crazy Demeter from Midgar, Rajaventinus from Cactuar, Carol, Seraphina Edelise, Senchi, Shadow Link on the Tonberry server, Dom, Asukawig from Jenova, Lamilionella of Mikr Summer, Sarah and the Fennel family, Janu Yatsuya, Kifkin the Great Eagles on Exodus, Katayoshi from Khuja, Rylanator Westaus The Purple Warrior, Edic Red Seal on Exodus, Lexxie Valentine, Mantaru the Rivivus FC from Zodiark, Sour Cream and Chives from Jenova, Rynoet Chikara, Goish Falfar of Siren, Phoenix Down FC on Goblin, and Saren from Zodiark. And then we have our, what's the word? Premium. I see it's been weeks and I already can't even do this part right. We have our premium sponsors from Patreon. Finally, we have Ostia, Christian, Corson Safari from Brynhildr, Samael Astoriath from Excalibur, Endless88, Illyria Mullane, Noel, Sumbla, Nakunayame, Shauna Senpai of Behemoth, Zoshime Hasha of Fanfort, Beatrice, Gazuzu, Vabatiama of Diablo, Shadow Ari of Brynhildr, Zeravire of Korwhirl, Alchemy, Shinka, Casual Heroes FC on Migr Summer, Tatachdak on Hyperion, Kanazuki from Jenova, Starla on Korwhirl, Sathal, Sarah Frost from Behemoth, Holy Tabasco, Crass015, Strenny FC on Ultras, Kat Kazuma, Ignis Fairground from Excalibur, Valestra of Fanfort, see, I'm leaving that in. Knock orders from Excalibur, Kovus Moonscar, Private Mikey, Nana Kiyosami, Rudy Rudiger, Kill Ackman, Raul Jr., Kiltastic Jones. You can tell I'm still getting over the 24/7 marathon that we did, although I feel a hell of a lot better today than I did the day after that marathon. So with that, I'm sure people have got questions. Let's get to answering them. Let's get started. All right, the first question is a post-Shadowbringers one. Good day, Happy. On your recent podcast show, I heard you say Dancer is the second lowest personal, which, by the way, now it has the absolute lowest personal. Now that FF Logs is actually tracking stuff, no more word of mouth. We have a basis through which to start analyzing statistics about the standings of the different jobs. Which leads to my question, who is the lowest? Okay, well, I just answered that. It's Dancer. And where does Ninja rank as far as personal DPS goes? Thanks, and have a good week. Ninja's just above Dancer. People are actually calling for some Ninja buffs right now because some are saying Trick Attack isn't going to make up for the amount of personal DPS Ninja does. And I've seen a few different people saying a few different things. You know, just looking at the numbers on FF Logs, looking at usually anywhere between the 75 and 90th percentile. There's only a couple of things that I would adjust about various jobs on that list that are just straight up buffs or nerfs. But everything seems to be, you know, we get job changes 2 to 4 weeks in. So as long as, I really wait till after those job changes to try and kind of judge the jobs, because there's no content that really matters what the difference between the jobs are right now. And honestly, even Savage is not really going to matter. So I think it's more important to focus on things that make certain jobs feel better, such as Astro's healing potencies or Scholar not having energy drain, than focusing on the raw DPS numbers of what each job is doing. If Ninja needs a buff based on raid DPS contribution, great. Totally glad that that analysis is there and go for it. But hopefully they're already aware of that and working on potency adjustments for the various jobs before Savage actually comes out. I saw the word monk as I was scrolling through, so I'm going to take this one too. How's it going, Mr. Happy? It's going swell. Question I might have already been asked already, so forgive me if I repeated it. With the release of Shadowbringers Monk, I noticed a lot of people seem to have jumped ship since Monk appears to actually have been gutted to what it was in 2.0. The removal of Howling Fist, Steel Peak, Perfect Balance being back on a 2-minute cooldown, the rework of Riddle of Wind. While with the changes the devs made, did they really have the player's best interest, or was them, quote, killing Monk's good place in favor of a brain-dead job? First of all, I'd like to say Monk's performance isn't suffering at all. Monk is actually, because of its simplicity, a very easy job to get into endgame stuff right now. Obviously, again, I just said in the previous thing, there's not really anything endgame outside of extreme trials, but the actual efficiency of the job is very high. The thing is that its playstyle has retained all of its 3.0 things, such as, you know, the longer perfect balance, the tornado kick only being on certain, you know, when a boss is actually about to jump. And they've taken things from 4.0 that people were, give or take, I actually liked Riddle of Fire in 4.0, but there's a lot of people who didn't like that it slows down the feel of the job, especially now that the whole goal is to go even faster. But they kept Riddle of Fire, and then they added in some stuff in 5.0, the fourth stack of Grease Lightning, a Knotman, and Six-Sided Star being kind of the big benefactors. And all that's led to a lot of people that just don't enjoy it right now. It's kind of in the same boat like Machinist was in 4.0, where it's perfectly fine and it's performing quite well, but a lot of people just don't want to play it. The Knotman opener, where you fish for a tick, a server tick using a Knotman, is definitely not something people are enjoying. And Six-Sided Star, people barely look at it. You know, it's just all these far too niche and situational skills. Like, Samurais are complaining about the one niche situational skill they got with Showa at level 80. Imagine a whole job built around those niche situational buttons, and the rest of it is a very streamlined, easy to follow rotation. That's kind of where Monk is right now. So if you just want to do some big numbers or AoE in a dungeon, you probably still enjoy it. But if you want to do some hardcore endgame and you're looking for the min-maxing, you're probably going to feel a little weird about it. So I guess to actually answer the question, since I was about to move on, I realized I just ended up talking about Monk. I don't think it's really about killing Monk's good place. Because there were a lot of people who also didn't like the 4.0 playstyle. There were a lot of people that did not like the rapid tornado kick playstyle. So it's just a matter of them, I guess, deciding that they wanted to streamline it a little bit, but it kind of left just a lot to be desired. It's probably what ended up happening. Next question, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Deep into the darkness peering. It's here and it's been amazing. I agree. 2 questions, sir, if you have the time. I do indeed. 1, do you think Eureka's going to stay dead? I played all day before the server reset, and Idados ended up with 61 crystals short on my 405 relic. I'd love to finish it, but so far it's totally dead. It will be dead for now. They tend to take the old relics and actually nerf them gradually throughout the next expansion, so I have no doubt Eureka's going to be seeing nerfs that will funnel people back into it. Interest in Baldessian Arsenal, while again, it's not going to be any interest in it currently because people are focused on Shadowbringer stuff. I have no doubt that the BA discords will eventually rise back up, and will probably be doing that during, like, in between periods of patches. So no, you're not doomed, but I'd probably wait a little bit before trying to finish it. Second question, has anyone heard anything about FanFest this year? There is no FanFest this year. FanFest is every other year. So basically when they're ready to announce the next expansion, which, you know, those come out every 2 years, then they do another FanFest. We shouldn't get another FanFest till 2020, basically is what I'm trying to say. So thank you for your questions. On to the next one, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. It's working really well for identifying questions in the YouTube comment section. Hey Hap, loving the new class, and as I'm sure most are. Have put some solid time in the dancer, but I feel that Saber Dance should be an OGCD. Your thoughts? I'll make a compromise with you. If Saber Dance gets to be an OGCD, it has to go down to 300 potency. That's just kind of the trade-off that has to be there. I am okay with either. I like Saber Dance having that big a hit on the GCD. It makes it so I'm not just only planning around OGCDs, which is it's not very difficult on Dancer to plan around OGCDs, but I don't want another tier of OGCDs kind of to plan around. I like that it goes GCD prioritizes 2 OGCDs, and then you have a GCD that's just completely separate in regards to your SP generation. I also like that big hit feel with the 600 potency. It's the big hit that I get in between standard and technical steps, you know? However, there are times where it's frustrating because you'll flourish as part of your burst rotation, and then you end up with all these Saber Dances, and you're like, well, odds are, if I Saber Dance, this is all guaranteed damage. if I cast one of my flourishes, my single target ones can be better than a Saber Dance, but only if I get a 50% proc on Fan Dance, and then that Fan Dance produces a Fan Dance 3. Then it's a potency gain to be using my flourish, but it can get kind of frustrating to lose flourishes because you're trying to bring out Saber Dances specifically during a burst window. There's going to be a lot of optimization when it comes to Dancer and the decision making that comes around it, but I'm okay with Saber Dance being on the GCD. The one change I want for Dancer, however, is to actually, Flourish was 30 seconds, it'd be dope as hell, but that's asking for a lot. Improv. I want to see Improv changed, because right now Improv requires you to have party members nearby in order to fully generate the Esprit. During an in-between phase, that's not really that big of a deal. But it can be frustrating when you got that one person who's got the attention span of a fly jumping around in between, and all of a sudden I end up with 9 Esprit generation during a certain point of the fight. I just don't see a good reason that it has to require other people to be nearby for you to get the full generation, because there's nothing that ever uses less than 50 Esprit, so it's just frustrating for no reason. So change that. Make that so it's just always 10 regardless of the number of people nearby. Alright, next one. Yo, Haps, what the fuck is up, my guy? How you doing? I'm doing alright. You doing alright? I'm doing alright. Probably dumb question. Probably not. But I've never been caught up to enjoy an expansion launch. That being said, when will we hear about this expansion's Relic Grind? Has it been brought up at all, or is everyone in the dark and not just me? I'm personally hoping a Eureka 2.0 because I kind of hate the old format and Eureka was very enjoyable. However, I do see others' complaints and understand how it was a simpler way to just grind old menial quests. Hope you didn't suffer too bad with early access queues. No, dude, early access was beautiful. They did such a good job with early access and launch in general. So all we know is that they were sort of on the fence about whether to do it the old way or the new way. There was never really a set way they said they were going to do it, and it seems implied through various other interviews that not only were they not decided, but they're kind of trying to think of doing something where it's a kind of a combination of the old and new. That way they can try to please both groups of people, which we know never works on the internet, to be fair. I kind of like the idea of it being in between the two, because by the time we got towards the end of Eureka, I enjoyed it a lot more. Really only Pagos I did not enjoy. The rest of it was either like chill, like Onimos was just chill. It wasn't fun, it wasn't like horrible, it was just like, I'm kind of neutral on this. Whereas Pyros and Hydados, I actually had a lot of fun, especially with the Baldessian Arsenal. So, but at the same time, I kind of miss being able to log in and, just grab everyone that I know, like, hey, who wants to go do roulettes for the Relic Grind? Oh, who wants to farm this dungeon? Does anyone need a dungeon for this? Does anyone have first-time bonuses so I can help with something? Because I need tomestones for my relic. I miss that too. So if they do end up doing it somewhere in between, I hope that I can get at least a little bit of both of those emotions. But we don't know when it'll be. We don't know what exactly it will entail. We only know those few statements of where they seem to be mentally in terms of preparing for what they're going to do for it. Alright, so this next question I saw was a re-ask, so figured I'd take it. I did see there was a lot of text, so I did you all the favor of reading all the text before I actually decided to include it in the video. This is a re-ask from a couple weeks ago, though at this point, Shadowbringers, it may be a month or older by the time you see it. Hey, Mr. Happy, how you doing? I'm doing alright. You doing alright? I'm doing alright. Long-time listener, first time asking, so I have a bonus of a non-limited Puppet Master in 14. Stings. So before you bother to read through my question, it's going to be a long-winded explanation. Okay, but for a simple yes or no question. Alright, that's why I read it. So this is why I read it in advance. Now everyone's reading it now. My question is as follows. After watching last week's Mrhappy Mondays, saw you respond to the question about macros. I personally have gotten into heated discussions over using macros as a mentor, and I wanted your opinion. I use macros and don't consider myself a casual player, having cleared Omega 1 through 4 Savage. Not that that means much. Does this make me a bad player? So I have read a lot of, pretty much the entire explanation there. And they basically have somewhat of a limitation in terms of what they're actually capable of in terms of the controller, and as such they have a more limited number of spaces that they have actually available to use on the controller. So because of that, they have to consolidate, because they can't use it the way that most people might think you can use it. And I always like to say this. If it's down to playing what players consider suboptimally versus not playing at all, as long as the people you're playing with understand your situation, understand what you need to do in order to actually be able to play the game, whether that be, whatever ability or disability someone may have, there's no reason they can't enjoy the game too. We may meme on people, you know, using macros as part of their rotations. We may make fun of them. We may say they're bad players, but it's kind of a generalization of players who don't wish to improve simply because macros are an option. They don't care at all that it's like a less than optimal way, but it's a way different story when people legitimately don't have a choice and they have to make do with what they are capable of. And not just from a I don't want to get better standpoint, but from like I said, whether it be an ability or a disability that someone may have. So if because of some sort of injury that you may have or whatever it may be, macros are okay in that situation. You know, I will never tell a player not to play because they're unable to play without using macros. That wouldn't be right. It's only the players who refuse, like they just say, no, I'm going to do this. Oh, it's worse. I don't really give a shit. Like, that's kind of frustrating because it's just like, I know I'm playing this way and I could try to learn to play the other way. I just won't. I just won't do it. I just won't do it. That could be frustrating. Next question, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays, basic question bolded at the bottom. Sup, dude? How you doing? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? Yeah, you doing all right. I'm probably doing all right. I'm doing good for hashtag Shadowbringers. I'll be having fun on healer. Level 1 healer to 80. I bet you can guess which one. Anyways, first time asking in many years of watching, so a bonus of 5 years of free Vegas eating to celebrate. Almost 5 years of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Dude, I'm not gonna lie, San Francisco's got some pretty good food, but, you know, I'll take some Vegas eating. Take, you know, a buffet here and there, you know what I'm saying? Looks like I've already been to the buffet. Question unrelated to 14 or games in general, but when you mentioned Aloha in this video, I had a realization. It'd be pretty cool to have a second camera on the screen that just points to Aloha if he ever chills in one spot. Isn't Aloha camp possible? It used to be, it's not anymore. He has way too many beds around the house, or places he considers beds. Right now, he's laying in the sunlight right here behind me. I don't think you can see him on screen. He's also got a little tent behind me. He's got a box in the hallway over there. Sometimes he just wants to lay in the middle of the floor, and then he sleeps on the bed upstairs on either side of the bed. He's just got too many places he considers a bed to put a camera and expect him to go there every day. He's just not reliable, unfortunately. Otherwise, yeah, it used to be possible. I think when we first got him, I had a little Aloha cam for when he'd be sleeping in a cardboard box next to me. And I'm sure if I put a cardboard box here, he'd sleep in it for like a week. But then he'd stop because he's not in the mood to sleep there anymore. He's got to move around, you know, make sure that, you know, anything that might be hunting him can't find him because he's in a different spot. You know how that cat psychology works. But I wish it was, but it's not. All right, next question. Hey, Happy, more of a tinfoil thing. All right, now I'm curious. Then a question, but I mean, you ask a question right here, though. Do you think we might be getting Savage-only fully separate 5th fights? That's not tinfoil. That's still a question. And with a reasonable base, I don't even have to read the rest to know that, you know, we've had comments from Yoshi P. I already talked about it a little bit earlier in this video, and I think in the video you're actually commenting on. About the idea of what could they possibly do different from what we had for Brute Justice and what we had throughout all of the Omega raids. And another fight is really the only conclusive thing that would be completely different from both of those, and that we might be excited about. I'm hesitant to assume we're gonna have a 5th fight in Eden that's Savage exclusive. There's a problem with doing Savage exclusive, like full encounters, in that it has to be the equivalent of, I guess, it almost would have to feel like that extra phase like we had throughout all of Omega of whatever the final boss is, just separated into another instance. Just because, also we don't know how the explanation of Savage goes here. We don't know if it's going to be, you know, the same way where the Wandering Minstrel gives it to us, or if it's going to be some sort of other way that we access it, like we did with Omega, where they had the simulations taking place on the machine that made them harder. So I just don't think they will. I think the loot spread between the 4, they've like got a very solid system for that, and that they're even going to be making that a little bit more improved going into the raids. And just, I don't know, I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think there's going to be an extra Savage fight. I'd love it. I've said for years we need 6 total fights in Savage so they can smooth out the difficulty curve instead of jumping between 2 and 3. A 5th fight would help that a lot. The 5th fight doesn't need to be harder than the 4th fight, like, you know, we have our 4th fight now. It's just that you can make the 3rd fight a difficulty between what our old 2 and 3s were, so it's just not as huge of a jump. So I would love it, but I just don't think it's going to happen. On to the next one. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays, asking again from a couple weeks ago. 2 birds with 1 stone. I didn't even see that when I selected this one. Hi, Mr. Happy. Been watching your videos for a while. Always find your content super informative and helpful. Thank you. Red Mages, Rapier, and Accelerator. It's called Magic... I don't remember the name. It's been so long since I've had to say it. What do you think if they were separate in the main hand and offhand like Paladin, Sword, and Shield? No! They already hate that the Paladin, Sword, and Shield are separate because it just makes loot annoying. It means they used to have it so if the sword dropped, the shield didn't guarantee to drop. Sometimes the shield didn't even come from the same fight at all. But it's been nothing but a thorn in their side. They don't even like the sword and the shield being separated. So the red mage weapon being separated into two will never happen. Even if it's just for glamour purposes, I would be insane. Also, now that it's already the way it is, the amount of data they'd have to change in the game to make it work would be substantial. So I feel very, very confident that this won't happen. I actually am okay with the idea. And I also thought the same thing about Ninja, 2 different daggers. You know, I always thought that looked cool in World of Warcraft, but when I say no, I don't mean I don't want it. I mean, there's no way it's going to happen. Well, this next one's a pretty big chunk of text, but it's got hashtag Mrhappy Mondays, so I'm going to take it. Hey, Haps, hope you're doing good, and by this time, hopefully enjoying Shadowbringers. Yes! It's the fact that I can't play off-stream is killing me right now, because I got to work on all these videos. I've asked this question before, I think. But what do you think about bards losing their identity as a support DPS in Shadowbringers? With the loss of the crit bonus to allies on their songs and the loss of Faux Requiem, to be fair, won't miss it. Moving forward in Shadowbringers with bard makes me feel like they're just fancy bowmen with a flute rather than bard supporting their allies with the power of song, which directly ties into the bard class quest. I know myself and a few others are bothered with this change as well, and even though I'm positive the gameplay changes will be a lot more fun to play, I just sort of don't want to play bard now because they lost their charm. Well, I'd like to point out that the two things you just mentioned, so obviously you just said Faux Requiem being gone, you don't really care that that's gone. And the crit bonus to allies being gone, you have to remember that those aren't the only things that define Bard's supportive playstyle. Even things as simple as the ability to interrupt an enemy, which only them and tanks can actually do. The slow and the bind, which you don't, are the heavy and the bind, which yes, you don't use them very frequently, but it is tied to a more supportive roll action playstyle. The movement speed in between the enemies, something only the ranged DPS can do, including Bard, of course. All the ranged DPS still have that 10% damage. Well, now Troubadour has been changed to be the 10% damage reduction at all times, and the other ranged DPS have that. You still have Battle Voice, you still have Nature's Min, which got a massive buff going into the expansion. So it's, while yes, you lost the crit buff, specifically to allies, and Faux Requiem, which responsible for many an early pull, there's still a lot of things about the job that are supportive, but it's less pronounced now. You know, through and through, people have constantly confused being a, quote, support DPS with being a DPS. That's essentially what Bard and Machinist have always been, and now Dancer as well. They are first and foremost DPS jobs. And this sort of mix of identities where the whole role is seen as this support DPS sometimes leads people kind of down a false avenue of expectation when it comes to the role. Now we have a clear distinction between kind of the 3 ranged DPS and where they stand as individual jobs. Machinist, while yes, it still has the roll actions, it still has the ability to reduce the damage taken with Tactician, it also is basically like the glass cannon high power boss of the ranged DPS role. Bard, lower DPS than that, but has a pretty high effective rate DPS increase with Battle Voice on top of other tools, one of which matches Machinist, the other of which is a massive heal increase for one person, which can never be undervalued when progressing on content fresh. And then you have Dancer, which is the lowest personal DPS, but has a higher raid DPS contribution than the rest. It also has a cure, it also has the damage down and all the roll actions as well. So there's this gradual step where the more supportive you want to play, you kind of move down to Dancer or Bard, and the more DPS you want to play, you move up to Machinist. So I like that kind of designation between it, and I don't think Bard's really lost its identity of being, you know, something that plays instruments to deal damage. It's just the DPS aspect of it is certainly more pronounced than the supportive aspects of it now. Alright, so oddly enough, in terms of questions I wanted to take, as I was scrolling down, it was mostly just comments, or actually people answering the questions in the comments. So, of the questions I scrolled through and decided I wanted to take this week, I'm actually done. It's a very awkward ending for me, but thanks for watching. If you have a question for next week, put it in the comment section of the video below. So, that's that. I gotta go work on some videos now. Just some dungeon guides. I've got, you know what, if I go through it. Let's see. 8 dungeon guides, an EX Innocence guide, an EX Titania guide, a video explaining how patch cycles work. We got State of the Realm this week, obviously Mondays with Mr. Happy this video. I think I just released a video on how grade 7 and grade 8 material work, which I actually recorded like 6 days ago and never put out. Oh, an update on the trust system, some benefits of each of the various trusts, why you would even do the trust system in the first place after the first time through the story, and overall spoilerific story thoughts, although we will have spoiler cast this week on State of the Realm. I'll probably do a shorter, more concise one myself, probably 15 to 20 minutes. A quick Dancer thoughts video, Gunbreaker thoughts video. I'm going to be busy. All right, that's you got the point at this point. Thank you again to all of our sponsors over on Patreon. If you have a question, ask it in the comment section for next time. And thank you to everyone who asked this week. But anyway, that's a wrap for me. I got to get working. I'll see you guys in the next video. And until then, take care.